その挑戦のチームメイトに。大企業とスタートアップ、産官学町の競争で新しい事業と新しい未来を作り出すオープンイノベーションプラットフォーム TMIP。
ズバリ我々の目的はオープンイノベーションなんですよね。そこで大事になるのは出会いであり共感であり、何より実行実装です。イノベーションというのはさまざまな人が出会って思いを共感し合って、そしてさまざまな知の組み合わせでイノベーションが起きる。そしてそれを言うだけじゃなくて実際に実装していくんですね。それができるのが TMIP だというふうに思います。
これ僕自身の持論なんですけども、我が国の大企業の方働いているのは全部で1400万人いるんですが、その 0.1% が新たなものを生み出すだけでも我が国は生まれ変わる、そういう力を持っていると思うんですね。この時に大事なのは伴走してくれる方々のそのフォロワーシップだと思っています。 TMIP の事務局の方々のその力に期待をしています。
新規事業には困難がつきもの。なぜなら前例がないから。それでも挑戦する人は信じている。この日々の先にこそ新しい可能性があると。そんな思いのそばに TMIP はいたい。フィールドは丸の内、ゴールは想像以上の未来。さあ TMIP と始めよ
う。 MUFG。
世界が驚くイノベーションは夢で終わらせないという意志から生まれる。信じ抜く、やり抜く、支え抜く。最高のチームで挑めばその夢はきっと形になるから。次はあなたと共に。さあ世界を驚かせに行こう。
We started with a vision that good ethics and business could be in harmony. And for over 150 years, we've embodied the spirit of the innovators who led the way. But as the world evolved, so did we, merging three of Japan's oldest and most esteemed banks to form Mizuho, a powerhouse full-service financial institution fit for the 21st century. Since then, we've been staking our presence across oceans and markets, working towards a tomorrow that reflects infinite potential and capturing opportunities that innovate across all industries. We've dared to dream big, growing in every direction, powering digitalization, and helping our clients and people be catalysts for change so that we can shape a prosperous future. Together, we are charting a sustainable path forward and ensuring that our clients and communities thrive by embracing our principles: integrity, passion, agility, creativity, and empathy. The innovative thinking and diverse perspectives that have brought us this far. Mizuho. Innovating today, transforming tomorrow.
いつかきっと作っちゃおう。すごいもの作っちゃおう。作るって楽しいよ。やってみよう。考えるとウキウキなんだかゾクゾクニヤニヤしちゃうよ。まだなんだけど絶対できるよ。本当にできるよね。未来
子供たちに誇れる仕事を。清水建設。
We do our jobs with sincerity and integrity to make a better living environment for the people and our society. Today's work, tomorrow's heritage. Shimizu Corporation.
エキスポ2025大阪ヘルスケアパビリオンにて6月24日から30日にスマートヘルスケアタウンプロジェクト開催。さあ未来を見に行こう。エキスポ2025大阪ヘルスケアパビリオンにて7月1日から7日にカーボンニュートラルトレジャーハント開催。さあ未来を見に行こ
う。地元のお米が大好きすぎて食堂をやっています。合わせる食材も地元でこだわり抜いてます。仕入れの支払いはアメックス。会計ソフトと連携して出費をまとめて管理。帳簿を書く手間がぐっと減ったのでアメックスで補助金を探して、前からやりたかった米粉パン屋も始めちゃいました。さあ行くぞ。ビジネスゴールドカードだからアメックスと。
親父から継いだ会社、目標は社員みんなでの成功です。だからみんなに追加カード持ってもらってます。出費を一元管理、めっちゃ便利。なんか会社に勢いも出てきた。で若い子の SNS がめっちゃバズっちゃって、まさかの海外から展示会のオファー。いやー、アメックスのポイント現地で大活躍でした。ビジネスゴールドカードだからアメックスと。
食の自由を機内で叶えてくれるレストラン。あなただけの心静かなプライベート空間。大型 4K モニターとシート内蔵スピーカーの没入感。あなたの好きがある。 JAL 国際線 A350 ダッシュ線、パリ・ロサンゼルスへも。
We will be resuming the session soon. Please return to your seats and wait a while. まもなくセッションを再開いたします。お席にお戻りになり、今しばらくお待ちください。 Welcome to the green stage. Thank you so much for waiting. This session will be conducted in English. Simultaneous interpretation is available through receivers. Please use channel 1 for Japanese. Now let's move on to the next session on the theme of ステーブルコイン革命、日本とアジアにおける Web3 大衆化の鍵。The panelists are for this session Mr. Takeshi Chino, Binance Japan General Manager for Japan, Mr. Sandeep Kasi, Antler Partner, Mr. Yusuke Takezawa, Progmat Chief Strategy Officer. The session will be moderated by Ms. Yuna Softech, Intertangible Managing Director. Ms. Softech, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's great to be here with amazing panelists today to talk about stablecoins. So we will talk about a cryptocurrency that is designed to stay stable in value, usually by being pegged to a reliable asset, in most cases right now US dollar. And the reason why this is because it's trying to stay stable and avoid the volatility of the usual crypto. It's really exciting to talk about this topic with the panelists that actually really move the market here. They're experts in this field. They have worked in this field for a long time. And the reason why this is so relevant right now is even though stablecoins have been around for quite a long time, recently they really hit the product market fit. Apparently, according to the latest data, in 2024, stablecoins trading volume surpassed the one for Visa for past year. And this is huge. And also they're seeing a lot of new recognition from traditional finance, from also different companies all over the world. And in the past few days, actually, we just discussed how there's been a lot of movement on this side with the US regulation initially being very interested and also open to stablecoins, but now the Senate blocking the bill of stablecoins. And also recently we saw PayPal acquiring the company Bridge and now rolling out their stablecoins across different countries and allowing payments and actually focusing their work on this, which was announced on their yesterday's session. So before diving into this, I would maybe like to ask our renowned speakers to give a little bit of introduction and tell us what actually brought them here to this panel and what their journey was to come to stablecoins. So maybe if we can start with Chino.
Yeah, thank you, Una-san, and thank you for having me in this great session. My name is Takeshi Chino, currently with Binance as Japan's country manager. Before joining Binance, I was the CEO of Japan operation of another crypto exchange called Kraken. But originally, I started my career at Tokyo Stock Exchange, and I spent roughly 10 years there. My experience in the stock exchange is around post-financial crisis initiatives, including setting up a clearing house for untransparent derivative transactions. Yeah, so I basically come from traditional finance, and now I'm trying to build a more digital financial ecosystem with Binance here in Japan.
And Binance is also turning from the largest exchange.
Oh yeah, thank you for mentioning.
Lifestyle brand, actually.
So Binance is the largest crypto exchange in the world. Currently, we have like roughly 50% of market share in the cryptocurrency trading all over the world. But in Japan, we are still quite young, and we needed to catch up with domestic players. So that's why we are eager to bring more cutting-edge products that we globally provide to Japanese market. So that's our mission.
Thank you. And Sandeep, your journey to this stage?
All right, great. So my journey is sort of very different from my colleagues here. I'm more of coming from a use case perspective, multi-domain expertise. I started in the automotive industry at Ford and General Motors, where I could understand all the intricacies of how things work in terms of developing material science. And then I transitioned from there to movie industry. I worked for George Lucas on about 29 movies. Could understand, most people think that movie industry is creative, but behind the lens is deep technologies, basically, right? So similar technologies as automotive and aerospace. From there, I transitioned to BBC on the broadcasting side, and then ended up here in Japan with Fujifilm on the material science, again with the lenses and all of that stuff. So what is my interest in stablecoin? Basically, I've come across multiple industries in my career, and there is now a massive opportunity in that space for interoperability, right? Because before, the interoperability was different currencies, whether it's you bought a car in, let's say in US, you're paying in US dollars. You bought a car in Japan, you're paying in yen, right? But basically the currency exchange between yen and dollar creates lots of issues. But if you peg it to a stablecoin, and you basically have a smooth interoperability. So the cost of a car in US will be the same as the cost of a car in Japan, as long as the stablecoin exists and is pegged. So my interest is to basically look at those kind of opportunities and to invest in as many startups as we can to enable the industry to grow, right? And hopefully in the near future, we'll have like hundreds of Web3 industries, Web3 companies that would leverage on stablecoin and start to really make this into a mainstream. Right now it's in the fringes, right? We want this to be a mainstream asset class, and that is my interest.
True, and right now it's in the fringes. There are not many companies that are doing this, but Takezawa-san, you took the leap a while ago. You co-founded and you're the Chief Strategy Officer of Progma.
Yep.
How did that come to life?
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Yusuke. My background is also from traditional banking sector. I started my career from Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, and I moved from SMBC to Boston Consulting Group, where I spent around 5 years there. And I was engaged in financial sector and public sector, and joined Progmat in 2025. And actually, Progmat was established just 1.5 years ago. And what we are doing now is we are providing a tokenization platform, mainly to the Japanese key players. And as a stablecoin arm, we are developing 2 types of systems. And one is issuing system for stablecoins, which is regulated under Japanese regulation. And the other thing is we're leading a project with Swift. This is a project called Project PAX, and we are trying to develop a global settlement platform using stablecoin. So this is the most prioritized area I'm engaging in at this moment.
Thank you so much. To set the stage and learn more about stablecoins, Chino-san, can you help us understand how stablecoins actually evolved to where they are right now? Especially, for example, in Japan, there's been a lot of changes with regulation. We have companies like Progma. We have also right now SBI working with Circle on the stablecoin issuance. Throughout your career with Binance, how did you see this move and maybe the influence from US and EU to the market locally?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So just trying to step back a little bit before answering question. So now we have a proper regulatory framework for stablecoin in this country. But before that, there was no clear regulatory framework. That's why Japan didn't have a stablecoin available. When people try to buy cryptocurrencies, they couldn't use stablecoin, unfortunately. So that's why the government and the regulator tried to set up a kind of regulatory framework, and now we have one. But SBI studied USDC, which is one of the USD pegged stablecoin issued by Circle, but still quite early for us to evaluate this initiative. But including Binance, a lot of people try to set up a stablecoin business. And we have a joint kind of project with Progma to issue JPY stablecoin and also non-JPY stablecoin as well, aiming to provide more efficient trading activities for our users. Having a stablecoin is are kind of a dominant practice outside Japan. People don't use like fiat currency, USD, Euro, JPY, when they trade cryptocurrencies. They prefer to complete everything on blockchain. If you use a fiat currency, you need to transfer your fiat currency stored in your banking account to crypto exchange banking account, and it takes time, and also it costs you a lot. Yeah, so people who are used to trade cryptocurrency, their first choice is stablecoin, and the stablecoin trading pair bring us most liquidity and trading volume. So without having a stablecoin, it is a huge disadvantage for Japan's cryptocurrency market and also a Web3 market also. So I quite positively see the recent move that led by Japan Financial Service Agency and the Japanese government to bring more reliable, transparent regulatory framework to the industry.
Yeah, Japan is usually known for actually having very clear regulation, for kind of really setting the guidelines for issuers, for companies, to really know what they can do and what they cannot do.
Yeah, I think that is quite an important point. Sorry, I want to mention that. Because as a business operator in this country, because the government and the regulator try to explain do and don'ts clearly. So this reduces the chances in the future that suddenly regulator kill us. That is the biggest risk for the business operator in any country, right, including Japan. But in Japan, very clear guideline as to what is possible and what is not possible. So I would say like predictability. Something we can predict.
Predict, yes.
Yeah, that is very important factor for us to operate in this country.
Takezawa-san, in your practice, how does that work? Because it's always said that over-regulation kills innovation. Japan is, I think, actually the private sector is working very, very well with the public one. What is your experience, especially now working across Asia, comparing these markets, and what is it like to issue?
Yeah, thank you. I think the collaboration with regulators is one of the most important things for us, because as Chino-san mentioned, when we try to develop a new framework or a new business, the clear regulation is necessary. But when the framework is developed solely from the regulator standpoint, there can stifle the potential of the business development in the future. So from that perspective, what we're doing now is having the communication and give regulators what kind of business potential or what kind of opportunities are there in the future. So without that kind of perspectives, the regulators cannot decide which is good and which is not good for their market players. So this is not a practice only in Japan, but also other countries as well. As Chino-san mentioned, Japan established the stablecoin legal framework for the first time in the global, but now other countries and regions are catching up. For example, the EU, Hong Kong, or Abu Dhabi, they have already their own legal framework. So in that process, key players in each market is trying to communicate with the regulators. And also, it shouldn't be limited in the particular market or country, because the stablecoin should be used for the global transaction. Otherwise, there's no real benefit for the users. So, as a platform players, I also try to communicate with key players and the regulators, central banks, in other countries or regions as well. So this is what we're doing so far.
Great. And on that note, Sandeep, you are investing in also local businesses, but every startup that you have ever invested in, based on what you told me, has had the global potential and global reach. So how does that work, especially in Southeast Asia or Japan or other places in Asia, where you have founders who are working in these markets that are very fragmented when it comes to regulation? Does it actually influence where they register their companies, who they work with, and how do you as a VC actually look at geography from the regulatory perspective?
So from a VC perspective, we've always had problems investing in Web3 companies because of all of these issues of meme coins and ICOs that are not pegged to anything that's of value. So most of the startups basically do pump and dump schemes. And from this perspective, we've always had an issue that we wouldn't invest in any Web3 companies that are playing in this particular ecosystem, right? So that changes with stablecoin. Stablecoin democratizes the whole process of how we actually launch startups in that space. Because stablecoin is pegged to a currency, whether it's a US dollar, whether it's a yen, and of course there are still issues from a regulatory perspective because the regulations in the US could be different compared to Japan, compared to Southeast Asia. But overall the friction is much more lower, whereby previously the friction was almost 90%. Now the friction is maybe 10%. And there are opportunities within that interoperability for startups to come in and say, all right, if you have a stable coin that's pegged to a yen and a stable coin that's pegged to a dollar, maybe there's an on-chain transaction that algorithmically that can actually figure out how many stable coins of a startup that is pegged to a yen would work with a product that's pegged to a dollar, right? Programmatically can be done, which was not the case before, which was basically totally a speculation-based asset. So from that perspective, we feel more confident now to invest in Web3 companies. We have done about 40 plus Web3 companies so far, but in the coming years ahead, we probably will do hundreds and hundreds of more because of the stable coin. If there's no stable coin, we wouldn't actually step into that space.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. And in addition to regulatory challenges, there are also technical issues. So Chino-san, for example, for Sandeep or his startups, what kind of advice would you have? What do they have to look out for in terms of, which are the technical challenges for these really achieving the right cross-border payments with stablecoins?
Yeah, first of all, I think interoperability, as Sandeep-san mentioned, is quite important element for us to consider. If one specific blockchain is available for a specific stablecoin, I think utility-wise is not good, right? So I think one stablecoin needs to be accepted by as many blockchains as possible. So that's our view. But I think many people try to overcome that technical challenges. But larger challenges may come from a regulatory side. Of course, we needed to reduce the chance of stablecoin being used by criminals, of course. And we need to seriously think about how we counter like these kind of money laundering activities, like a terrorism, the kind of funding kind of problem. But if a regulator say, hey guys, you only provide a stable coin within a specific group of people, like everyone is like high profile company, for example, I don't think that is room for stablecoin to grow. So I think a key challenge is to how we can convince regulator in a way that they feel comfortable to allow stablecoin issuers to provide services all over the world. And also thinking about how we try to minimize of the chance to be used by the criminals. So that's, I think, the key challenges.
Yeah, I think inevitably regulators have to look into this space because there's this large amount of actually value which is being transferred, but also there's so much interest from different enterprises, especially in Japan here as well. A lot of companies, traditional companies that have been around for hundreds of years are embracing Web3 in general. So Takezawa-san, in your experience, what are some of the challenges for enterprises, for your clients on the infrastructure side or on the kind of traditional way of working with things? What are some of the things you would like to see improved when Progma comes into the play and you work with your enterprise clients or banks and so on to help them on their journey?
Yeah, thank you. I felt one of the biggest challenges, they don't have a sort of capability to access to the blockchain and to start a blockchain-based business by themselves, because the market is still early stage, and it's not easy for conventional Japanese companies to make a huge investment for Web3 related business. So what we're doing now is we're creating a platform that can help traditional companies to access to the blockchain. So they can, how to say, we can minimize the hurdles for Japanese traditional companies to join this new ecosystem. And as one of the options, we are providing a settlement platform working with SWIFT and the conventional commercial banks. This is because we can leverage their existing assets or capabilities to make stablecoin cross-border remittance. So this is one of the practical approaches we can take considering the current Japanese market situation.
Great. And Sandeep, the startups that you're investing in, the enterprises you're working with are mainly focused on the end customer. And there are many use cases for stablecoins as well when it comes to peer-to-peer payments and this type of markets. You have a lot of experience in this field on the global level. What would you like to see here in Asia, in Japan, for example, taking learnings from FinTech or some other applications when it comes to stablecoins in Asia?
So there is so many opportunities when it comes to stablecoins for Japan mainly, and I'll probably talk about two that's very close to my heart. The problem in Japan in the fintech sector is it's still a cash-based economy, right? It doesn't matter anywhere you go, you need to have cash. And I just don't understand, it's 2025, why do I have to carry cash, right? So it needs disruption, and there is absolute ample opportunities to do that. And there are companies that are doing that already. So for example, if you go to the Hokuriku region, the Hokuku Bank actually has something called Tochika. Right? Tochika is a stablecoin peg to yen, and basically it is solvable. But the problem here is that the mega banks are fighting among themselves, trying to figure out whose stablecoin is going to rule the whole economy of Japan. That is the problem here. So Japan itself needs a stablecoin that every bank can use, very similar to SWIFT, which is the international exchange platform. I think that is what Japan needs. If Hokuku Banks does their own stablecoin, MUFJ does their own stablecoin, then it basically fragmentation the way it is right now, right? You go to Suica, you go to PayPay, you go to Eddy, so you have like all of these different fragmented platforms, and the same thing is going to happen to stablecoin if we don't do something in terms of standardizing the whole thing, right? So that's one piece. The second piece is in the gaming space. Gaming has always been an amazing thing from a cryptocurrency perspective, but it has actually fallen short because of all of these schemes, the scams, right? Stablecoin can play a huge part in that. From a perspective of like, there's all of these manga and anime IPs that are sitting around in Japan, basically on the shelves, doing nothing. We can unlock those things through a stablecoin-based platforms, whereby it starts to really see opportunities. So from our perspective, from Antler's perspective, we're in 30 cities. We actually invest in 400 companies a year, and we have like 12,000 entrepreneurs in our database. I would love to see an IP bank from Japan of anime and manga that is exposed to our founders in 30 cities and enable them to build new businesses, whether it's fintech business or gaming business or RWA businesses using stablecoin, right? Those are the opportunities that Japan has in front of it, but we all have to get together to get that done.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest, especially from the IP companies here, a lot of movement already, and we'll get back to that. But before that, you mentioned SWIFT, and Takezawa-san is actually working with banks, integrating SWIFT in the operation with the project PAX from Progma. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, Project PAX is, as I mentioned, it's a project which is aiming to develop a global settlement platform using stablecoin. And there are many initiatives in global using blockchain at this moment, and many projects are focused on developing their ecosystem that exclude SWIFT or existing platform players. And I can understand there are potentials to create more flexible or better ecosystem by removing such kind of traditional players. But we intentionally involved SWIFT and the other banks because we are seeing B2B transactions. That means the transactions with huge transaction volume and the compliance requirement is very strict. And in this financial field, only banks has enough capability to provide such kind of AML safety practice. Or if a entirely new system wants to be introduced in the market, every player needs to pay the cost to join that new ecosystem. And it would be huge hurdles for Japanese companies to access to the blockchain ecosystem. So we believe one of the important things is how to minimize such kind of hurdles for the potential players. So this is a project we are doing at this moment. And the other feature is we are collaborating with not only conventional banks, but also the traditional top-tier Japanese companies like trading companies, because they have an actual demand for using stablecoin, especially for the cross-border transaction. When we see the transaction with Japan and developing countries, for example, the money goes through several correspondent banks at this moment. And of course, it takes cost and time. And also, the business situation in developing countries is very complicated. And sometimes it takes more than weeks to settle just only one transaction. But by using stablecoin, that kind of transaction flow will be streamlined, and they can enjoy the actual benefit, business benefit from such kind of platform. So that's why they have a strong interest, and we are working together with them.
Great. And right now, the cost of transaction with stablecoin is a few cents. It's much smaller than what it is compared to, for example, some bank remittances, as you said, with many, brokerages and so on, coming up to 15% of transaction or so. Do you guys think that this trend will stay? The stablecoin will keep being the lowest kind of cost per transaction on the market as more players are getting in? Is it going to stay competitive where the price is going to keep being lower and lower, or will more and more competitors kind of also keep adding their fees now that we see, big card issuers being interested, big players in payments and so on? I don't know if anybody who wants to take this question, but if you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that is one of the beautiful aspects of the stablecoin business, right? So I think in order for us to kind of enjoy a benefit of a new technology, we need a competition, like kind of a good competition, So as more companies started to look into opportunity around the stablecoin business, I think more competition will be taking place, right? And that will leading to lower cost, theoretically. So I think as competition, keeps going, then I think like we as a consumer or a trader can, enjoy a lower cost of the transaction. So I think that is a good thing.
And Chino-san, what is your opinion about the stablecoins competition, not among different issuers of stablecoins, but in general in the ecosystem? For example, we mentioned SWIFT, we mentioned bank trading, there are CBDCs, there are different financial products. What do you think the role of stablecoins will be among?
So as Takezawa mentioned, it is quite important for kind of existing players to accept this new technology. And for the people who are part of the existing ecosystem or platform, they don't need to actually adapt a new technology from scratch, right? They have invested a huge amount of money into an existing platform. For example, like a banking system. In this country, we have a ZengiNet, So when you transfer your money to your friend, and the Zengin system is there to make sure that your money will be reaching to your friend account. And a lot of companies have invested a lot of money. So the cost is sunk. They have a little motivation to switch to another new platform, for example. But the existing platform started accepting the new technology on the back end. You know, the users are still, you know, using the existing platform, but technology-wise, maybe changing to a blockchain more. So that is a key element of this technology being accepted by more people. So, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm deviating from your question. So sorry.
No, this is great. This is actually really great. And I would actually love to get more insights continuing this. Maybe if Takezawa-san can help us get deeper into this. We already talked about use cases. I'd like to hear, for example, from you when you talk to your clients and your network. What kind of use cases do they see or do they want to see stablecoins solving?
So one of the use cases we're seeing is cross-border settlement, because as I mentioned, we are working with Japanese trading companies, and they have the strong demand for using stablecoin for cross-border settlement. This is because one of the biggest advantages of blockchain-based transaction is flexible fund transfer and also real-time settlement. So when the transaction will be down between two countries, the countries in different regions, we can see the significance of the stablecoin. So that's why we're seeing cross-border transaction as our first use cases. But at the same time, stablecoin can be used not only for wholesale settlement, but also retail transaction as well. And in terms of retail transaction, one of the important things is the collaboration with payment service providers or existing platformers, because they have a strong user basis. And we can provide stablecoin, but we don't have access point with such kind of individual users. So how to collaborate with such kind of key players in each market, and also how to create a user-friendly interfaces. This is a key point to achieve the mass adoption.
And Sandeep, you touched upon that already before with gaming.
Right.
This is exactly what Takezawa-san right now mentioned.
Right.
What do you see in this market more specifically? What would you like to see more? As you said, it needs to be user-friendly. People actually, in niche markets need to know how they can work with stablecoins, how they can use them.
I think in terms of mass adoption, there's a couple things, right? One is, interoperability. We keep coming back to the whole issue of interoperability. Without interoperability, you won't see mass adoption. And within the fragmentation of the Japanese ecosystem with various banks offering their own stable coins, that needs to come up into a standard interoperability, path. And maybe platforms like his can actually help, achieve that. So that is basically from a technical standpoint of view. And then you have different chains. Every stablecoin is being built on different chains. Some is built on Cardano, some is built on Solana, some is built on, Polygon. But again, it's transaction fees from one chain to another chain. When you have interoperability issues, it actually costs a lot more money, right? So how do we actually figure those technical issues out where transaction becomes much more palatable? And the existing ecosystem of credit card companies, they actually charge not based on transaction. Of course, the transaction is charged to the shopkeeper, but they are charging on interest-based. Right? If you get money out of a Visa, you're paying like 14% interest on. But when stablecoin comes into it, how does that change the ecosystem? Now it is not about interest rates; it's about transactions, right? So those are the problems that we still haven't figured out yet.
I wanted to ask you specifically for gaming, do you think that the gamers are more kind of susceptible to these changes? Are they going to be more interested to embrace payments or more excited to embrace payments with stablecoins?
I think the most interesting market for stablecoins, at least at this point of time, is what he's doing, which is cross-border transactions. Right? Most of the stuff is going through SWIFT. It is not really pegged to anything. So I think that's where I see the first market moving in. And the second market I actually see is something called, real-world assets, RWAs, right? Where you can actually tokenize pretty much anything, and everybody can have a small piece of that asset. I was with Yatsui in Singapore, and he had an interesting story. He purchased a classic violin. He's a violinist, right? He purchased a classic violin from Vienna, and I don't know how much it is, probably millions of dollars. And he tokenized it, so now everybody basically has a piece of that violin because of the RWA tokenization, right? So what it means is that you can actually gamify every real-world assets we have using stablecoin. And I think gamification is probably the other way of this to get mass adoption in terms of use cases.
Interesting. And Chino-san, with Binance, you can talk about mass adoption a lot because you are the largest exchange, and I know that you have put a lot of effort to become number one, just from the point of ease of use, user friendliness, but also education. With your Binance Academy, you're educating the users. How does that play into the world of educating everyday users to use stablecoins, to know how to be basically safe with the payments? And do you think that this will also change in the future, how maybe the end users are getting information and educating themselves about this area?
So basically, the Web3 ecosystem is eventually leading to a state where people transfer money bilaterally. So it's a kind of P2P kind of concept, right? But the P2P requires you guys to accept all of the liability or responsibility from your outcome, basically. If your money is stolen, it's your own responsibility. There will be no institution to compensate your loss, for example. Yeah. So education is key, and Binance is doing a lot of things around education. As Una-san mentioned, we have a Binance Academy. This is the most widely read content in the Web3. We provide a lot of educational content in our Binance Academy, for example. But the key challenge is, the people are still, suspicious or skeptical about this new technology. There are a lot of, unfortunate events happened in this country, like hacking incidents over user asset, right? So in addition to making an effort to educate people, but as a business provider, we, ourselves needed to upgrade our security level to make sure that this service is safe enough for retail users. Yeah. So.
Yeah, on that note, there's one thing we didn't mention. We said stablecoins are usually pegged to stable asset so that they, prevent volatility of normal crypto, but we didn't really talk about the mechanisms of stability here, and there can be many. Now I think more than 99% is actually pegged to US dollar. We're talking about JPY coming out. There's the gold or any kind of RWAs as well. There's also AI, algorithmic stablecoins. How do you guys see them? I don't know who wants to take this question, but how do you see different types of models of stability playing in this market when especially the users are just getting educated about this, and we want mass adoption of new technologies, but at the same time there's just so much to learn?
Let me take that from a perspective of technology, and then I'll let you guys take on terms of policy.
No.
So from a perspective of technology, AI is going to play a huge role in the adoption of stablecoin. If it is trained right, some of those peer-to-peer transactions that was mentioned can actually be protected from scams and stuff like that. But that being said, programmatic or AI-based stablecoin, or for that matter, anything to do with AI, mainly in the crypto space, if you're going to be training on the previous transactions that has happened since for the last 8 years or whatnot, where there's a bunch of scams that have happened, that gets learned by the AI, and then you'll start to have hallucinations, right? Which means it actually ends up destroying your whole ecosystem. But if we can do really very focused training on AI, which basically includes large institutions and mega banks and corporates and platforms like his, to come in and contribute to an LLM globally. Now, I'm not just saying that specifically from a Japan perspective, globally, then we can have a programmatic AI that then basically figures out, okay, now there is it's 140 yen to $1 today, stablecoin, is pegged to a yen and pegged to a dollar, that means it's 1.4 stable coin of a yen to $1, one of a dollar, right? And if the market starts to fluctuate where the yen starts to go up to 180, and then this dollar stable coin can actually automatically peg itself down or up, right? Those can be done through AI. Those can be done through a protocol that basically has yet to be exercised at this point of time from a technology perspective. But I'll let this gentleman talk about from a policy perspective.
Maybe Takezawa-san as well, if you just have a general answer of how much trust you have for programmatic AI with stablecoins.
So from legal perspectives, we have, as we mentioned, we already have a clear legal framework. And under Japanese regulations, we use a trust scheme to use stablecoin. So that means the asset can be secured 100% by trust bank. So theoretically, there is already safe and practical scheme. And what we have to do as a next step for mass adoption is to create a tangible result. Because at this moment, there were a lot of initiatives or POC projects in global, but many of them are still in the technical verification. So if key players are still wondering whether this blockchain system can bring real impact or what kind of, the sustainable scheme they can provide to the market. So that's why we're focusing on creating the use cases, collaborating with traditional companies. So without actual use cases, maybe there are a huge gap between technical verification and mass adoption. So this is the lacking part we have to approach.
In your opinion on AI, Chino-san, or mass adoption for that matter, what do you think? What will drive mass adoption of stablecoins? Will it be technology, kind of new hype about the technology, the use cases, or what do actually we need to see in the market for the mass adoption?
I will be focusing on the importance of existing players, like large companies like you see Toyota and JR East here. So if these big companies started adopting the stablecoin technology, then the users will have kind of a less friction to adopt a new technology, and that will be a key. Yeah. So we as Binance also trying to convert retail players to more Web3 like users through the education, but at the same time we are aggressively seeking for an opportunity to shake hands with these big corporations so that they start convert their existing users to more Web3 like.
Okay, great. Your thoughts on that, Sandeep? You're working with a lot of enterprises. You're also mentoring a lot of founders within your field. What do you want them to focus on or kind of keep themselves informed on?
There's a two-headed problem, right? As Chino-san was mentioning, companies like Toyota's and JR East, they have to adopt the stablecoin as part of their ecosystem currency. But the biggest problem that I'm seeing is that when my local vegetable vendor can take a cashless payment and stay stablecoin, that's when we will see mass adoption. So how do we get the local mom and pop shop in Japan to get off cash and start to really use stablecoin? To a certain extent, I would say PayPay has done a good job.
Yes.
Right? So PayPay has done a fantastic job, but it came at a cost because at some point of time, PayPay was giving Ichimayen out. We cannot do that. Right? As a startup, I cannot tell my startup, hey, go out and give Ichimayen, to everybody else in stablecoin and then have them, have them basically be part of your customers. There has got to be, the customer acquisition cost has to be zero for stablecoins. And where is that process of getting a customer acquisition cost to zero? That is the challenge that we at Antler are putting to our startups. So that come up with opportunities where the CAG is zero for mass adoption. So stay tuned. We'll have many startups in this space and maybe one of them will crack the code.
Great. Takezawa-san, do you have any final thoughts on this? Either how to create mass adoption or where you see future?
Yeah, so far there are many initiatives and they're trying to develop their own ecosystem, but now they're trying to integrate each other. So each country has their own legal framework, and many players are ready to collaborate each other. So I think we are reaching to the mass adoption little by little. So I hope I will give you guys a great, how to say, the announcement in the near future in blockchain field as well. So I hope, yeah, we can work together.
We're very much looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing what all three of you and all your companies are going to bring. And I thank you so much for today's session. I think we learned a lot, and the most important lesson maybe is to keep collaborating, keep learning, and always make sure to, follow the legal regulations of the country where you're in. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give a huge round of applause to our wonderful speakers. ご登壇いただきました皆様ありがとうございました。Now we're going to take a quick break for the stage preparation. We're scheduled to resume at 2 p.m., so please return to your seats by then. Thank you very much for your cooperation. それではここで休憩とさせていただきます。この後は2時再開を予定しておりますので、お時間までにお席にお戻りいただきますようお願いいたします。
コツコツワクワク技術を磨くコツコツワクワク想像していく一人のコツコツワクワクは仲間とつながり大きなパワーとなって社会に活力とゆとりをもたらします。私たち三菱電機グループはたゆまぬ技術革新と限りない想像力により活力とゆとりある社会の実現に貢献します。コツコツワクワク世界を良くする
三菱電機。
地球は青かった。いいですね。宇宙っぽいでしょ。でもさすがに宇宙